back to Mr. What Presents. Today, Theatre Rhino in the house, Rudy Guerrero and John Fisher. Welcome back.
Hey, Mr. Wah.
You are a familiar guest with this studio here. This season, you're bringing back Priscilla, Queen of the Desert at the Rhino. John Fisher, you run the venue, you run the Theatre Rhino, and have done so for a number of years. You write, you play. Are you in this particular play?
No. This is for the real singers, the real singers and dancers. It's a musical. It's a spectacle. All the music is from the 70s and 80s. It's all your favorite disco hits. And we've got a great, talented singing, dancing cast. So it's a musical version of the movie.
That's right. And everybody will remember Priscilla, Queen of the Desert from 1994, I think. It was released in Australia. Back then, queer movies and LGBT subject matter was not as prevalent as it is today. What has changed since 94?
Well, I think there's generally more acceptance of queer people, of course, but what's sad that has not changed is acceptance of transgenders and people who live trans lives. And the musical really is about that. I mean, it's a musical comedy. It's a very funny, charming show with a lot of energy and excitement, but at its core, it's about acceptance. It's about accepting yourself, and it's about transgenders achieving acceptance in the world. And they're portrayed as tough and loving and caring and ambitious and kind people who still aren't getting the break they deserve. And in the course of the musical, Rudy, who plays the lead, reconnects with his family, and we see another queer family created from Rudy and this little boy and the lesbian parents of the child. So it's a musical about acceptance, and I think that getting back to the whole transgender issue, this is still something that we're having trouble with in this country, all over the world.
So that's where the frontier currently is for LGBTQ
I think so.
politics?
I think so, yeah. I mean, one of the candidates for governor, his whole platform was anti-transgender. It's this appalling.
But then you get some transgender folks elected, so...
Yeah, so there is progress, but it seems to happen slowly. It's almost like every time we achieve something as queers, there's something else that's wrong. There's another subcategory that's wrong still, and it's like, just move on. Just find something else to hate or don't hate. So and so it's actually a musical with, I think of it as like one of those old Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals from the 50s, where like South Pacific is really dealing with prejudice. You think of it as like there is nothing like a dame and all these great dance numbers, but it's really about prejudice. And at the center of this is the world dealing with its own prejudices.
And this is the exact same story as in the film, or I mean, I noticed it was the same director producer. So is he repurposing the same script, or are there things that have changed and that you can detect are significantly different?
Yeah, there's significant changes. For one thing, there's 20 musical numbers in it, so that just sort of changes the flow of things. And I think people who've seen the movie will enjoy this production because our casting is very different. We have a very multicultural casting, and that movie was very white bread.
But by the same token, they will recognize the songs.
Oh yeah, I mean, these are the songs I grew up with.
If somebody loved the film and has loved the film, they will recognize their beloved film in the play.
Oh, sure. You get everything. You get a bus. We have a bus on stage. You
Very
get
good.
I mean, how could you do it without the bus? There's a big pink bus on stage, and it changes colors, and so it's an adventure. It's very much the movie put on stage.
And Rudy, since we have you here, which is your character? Are you the lead in this show?
Yes, I am. I'm playing the character named Tick, and his drag name is Mitzi.
Gotcha. And this is your very first breakthrough as a drag character?
Yes.
So how does that feel? I know you as a wonderful actor in male drag, so to speak.
Yes, that's
and,
right.
how does it feel, and what does it take to become this?
How does it feel? My feet hurt.
Lots of high heels.
Lots of high heels. Yeah.
Any sand on stage?
Sand? No, but the stage is colored like sand, but not real sand.
What else in terms of mindset, in terms of rehearsal, in terms of commitment to the role? Are things different when you're playing this character?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, when I was preparing for the role, I took it upon myself to put myself in his mindset. Tick is a working class drag performer. So I took time out to go to thrift stores and used clothing stores and try and figure out, what would he pick out if he were in a store like this? And and I would take a couple of things, and then I would take them to our costume designer, Robert Horek, who leads a fantastic team of designers. And I'd say, what can we do with this? How can we Priscilla-ize this garment? And he'd say, oh, let's take the sleeves off, and let's add some feathers, and let's add a train and some glitter, and all of a sudden it's 10 times more outrageous than it was to begin with.
Beautiful. Well, that makes for a much better show, more exciting, more color, more glitter. The character reminds me a little bit of the Doris Fish in the 90s, same time in San Francisco. Were you here then? Do you remember Doris Fish?
Of course.
Were you going out at the time?
Yeah, a little bit. I was in graduate school at the time, so I was sort of in my own kind of world. But it was funny, you were talking earlier about the murder of the streaker. And there's so many things I still don't know.
Right, yeah, San Francisco always has
it's amazing.
Some hidden stories to reveal.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting you talking about the costumes. The costumes are so spectacular, and I think that you really have gotten that whole sort of thing about the drag queens are queens, but they're self-anointed. they give themselves the crowns, the hair, the robes, the garnish of queendom, and it really is kind of fun that way because all the drag queens I always knew. They knew the thrift stores, and they knew how to hit the thrift stores. And it's like I would go to the thrift store and try and find like a blue blazer. Like, good luck. Nobody gives up blue blazers. But drag really is about discards, and that's camp. Camp is taking stuff that people have said is bad and say no, it's good. Old Betty Davis movies,
right?
Old TV shows, and that really is the spirit of this production. It's very much about camp, but I think it goes a step further. It also has a heart, and there's a whole scene with your son. Yeah. And we have a wonderful boy, and they have this beautiful scene in the show where they sing together, and it's really, really very sweet and funny.
And we were talking about the many hats. We always talk about the many hats that you wear when you come here, since you write, you direct, you act, and such. As a director on this one, are you injecting a John Fisher dose of changes, or are you staying true to the text?
Some little things. I mean, I didn't. The text is pretty damn silly as it is. It doesn't. I found years ago I did Guys and Dolls, and I tried to inject all this John Fisher stuff into it, and Guys and Dolls was just creaking under my camp. It was just really groaning. So there's some, like when Charles smells the ping pong ball that's been up Grace's la. I mean, I said, what's a gay man, what's his reaction going to be to the smell of a ping pong ball that's been inside a woman, and Charles runs with that. And, so I added some gags along the way, but really, my job was to facilitate this spectacle. It really is kind of a wonderful thing on its own.
And it is a long show. I think I read 2 hours or
2.5 hours
plus,
with intermission. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And our choreographer, AJ Mitchell, he's like endless dance numbers. It's one dance number after another.
So a lot of energy to this show.
Tons of energy in that theater.
How many in the cast? How many around you? 13.
13, yeah.
Rotating characters.
Oh, constant costume changes. The dressing room is like madness. That's a whole other show in itself. You could sit in the dressing room and have a great time.
Well, this year though, John did inject a little more sexiness or risqueness as opposed to last year.
I told them I thought it should be naughtier this year.
Good.
And there's
naughtier,
there's a little more sort of flesh in the opening number. Actually, a lot more.
Okay.
There's a lot more just sort of. Yeah, I don't want to say it's not kid friendly, but it's definitely more adult this year.
So if you saw it last year, are you going to see a different show, or you kind of have seen for the? I mean, what would you say to people that saw and loved the show last year?
It's different this year. There are a lot more different. There are a lot of different people on stage.
Okay.
One of our longtime Thrill Peddlers regular, Kim Larson, is he's playing one of the leads this year.
Excellent.
And he's great.
He's wonderful.
In a whole different way from last year's. There's Kim, and Kim's terrific in this, and he brings a whole different quality to it, which. It's weird. I watch it and I don't think, oh, this is better than last year or it's different from last year. I'm just like, oh, this is Bernadette. So there's a lot of different things this year, So
different alchemy in terms of
anytime you have different
cast.
people. Yeah, we're not like Broadway. Broadway, you go and see a show with a completely different actor. It's exactly the same. It's like they found somebody who could do an exact imitation of this star.
Which is the reason we want to see a live show. If we want to see the
exactly.
same show, we'll just watch the movie, pop the disc in there. What do you like best about this particular role, since you're reprising it from last year as opposed to the moving characters, the cast? You're still there. You were there last year.
I am.
What drags you back in this one?
Well, the show itself is just a lot of fun to do. The music, it's all these hits from the 70s and 80s that you don't normally get to sing as a musical theater performer.
Right, because all the music, and we should specify this, is live in terms of the vocals.
Yeah.
Do you have a band in there? Or
No, we have tracks because we wanted that.
Right, so it's
disco
live
sound.
vocal tracks over, so it's not a lip song, it's not lip
No,
syncing.
no,
so.
they sing
Well,
it.
there is lip syncing in it because of the nature of the story.
Right.
But even the lip syncing numbers are sung live by a chorus of women called the Divas.
It's a beautiful element. It makes for a much better show always, of course,
I think,
when there's live music.
It's funny you say that's true because you don't get to see I sing I Will Survive,
No.
Color My World. You don't get to sing those things unless you're like a bar or something, you know, or martinis
Or
or
the
something.
Mint or something.
Yeah,
Bad karaoke bar.
Yeah, bad karaoke
But you guys
bar.
are doing it with all the stops, and so you are a trained singer.
I am a trained singer. And just to touch on what you brought up earlier, with this particular musical, you can sing in a sort of pop style, which is not appropriate for a traditional musical. So, and that again is a lot of fun.
I noticed that the other night. You just started doing that. It was just one night after we opened, right? Yeah, but it lends itself to that.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
put grace notes into Guys and Dolls, and it killed. It was like no. Everybody was like, "You can't do that."
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
And here a City Hall photo shoot. So it looks like we may be, at the cusp of a new era for San Francisco with Mark Leno, very likely.
That's right.
The winning
That's right.
mayor
I'm
of
hoping.
this round.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? A gay mayor in San Francisco, the very first one officially.
It's great. I think Mark's a terrific public servant. He's smart. He's quick. He cares. As you were saying, he's always been supportive of the arts.
Yep, definitely.
You were talking about that. He's always supported Theatre Rhinoceros. He was just at a fundraiser we did. He was the guest who spoke to us about his ambitions, and we love him to death. And I think it's long overdue that San Francisco had a gay mayor. I mean, come on. Berlin has had a gay mayor, for God's sake. You know, it's like we're being trumped by the capital of fascism, right? The former capital of fascism. But I think it's long overdue, and I think he's the best candidate.
Well, I don't know if it's former. It looks pretty present at the national stage level. So hopefully we'll have the counterbalance that is needed to bring back a little bit more humanism to the nation.
He's aware of that. He spoke about that. I think that he very much. I think he has a vision for San Francisco, which is lacked for a while. It's been sort of business as usual business, and I think business will take care of itself in this city.
And that brings us to this here new logo for the Theatre Rhino.
Yeah.
So you're the longest running LGBTQ theater in the world.
That's right.
What is the role of the Rhino in this day and age?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, I think that there are always new issues for Theatre Rhinoceros to address. And we've been doing a lot of shows about transgender lives because I think that's still where the challenge resides. People are still very judgmental of transgenders. They think it's a choice. They think it's a mutilation. They think, they have a lot of prejudicial responses to it. And I think it's because they just don't know any transgenders. And I think we have to get those stories out there. And also the lives of African-American queers, which I think are underrepresented. And there are still prejudices in many communities against queer people. So I think the battles aren't won.
Right, definitely not. You could tell no later than this week with that cake story in Indiana where the Supreme Court gave them the choice to denigrate and refuse to serve. So same old fight.
And same old fights. And we're doing a kind of a word for word presentation of the masterpiece Cake. We're going to do the Supreme Court deliberations. They're fascinating to hear these people talk about that case. And I think that it's still a very important issue for this country to face. I don't think it's solved, and I think that a queer theater is still necessary because we're committed to consistently producing queer lives.
Right.
And that is unique in the theater community.
Rudy, what else interests you? When you're not working for the Rhino, where do we find you?
I have an opportunity to work at a number of different theaters in the Bay Area. And if you want to learn more, just go to my website, rudyguerrero.com.
Rudy is also involved with Lawrence Dillon in our parade float. We have a float in the parade this year, which is a gigantic rhino.
Nice.
Huge three-dimensional rhino and a huge high heel shoe.
Perfect.
So you have Theatre Rhinoceros and Priscilla. And
How fitting.
Yes,
On
yes.
one 30-foot long float.
30-foot long float. And Rudy has helped design that and make. So we're very excited about Pride coming up in 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Soon.
And the Rhino programming. How'd you come up with this programming? How do you approach it?
A lot of it is just trying to find the kind of stories that I want to tell, and sort of piecing those together with, the people I want to work with. And there's this old play, Death Trap, which nobody really realizes is gay. It's a very gay thriller. Nobody had really noticed that about it when it came out originally. And then I reread the script, and I'm like, he actually says, the one man says to the other, I love you. And somehow that nobody really noted that. So we're always trying to find the old stories that need to be told again. And then the news shows. And we actually got permission to do Sister Act, this wonderful musical, with 2 men. They said you can use 2 men in the leads. I couldn't even believe it.
So the script didn't exist. You just modified it to fit.
Well, the script was there, but it was written for 2 women to play the leads. And I said, can we use 2 men? Thinking they'd say no, because they always say no.
Right.
And they said, yeah, sure, whatever.
Great.
So I was like in shock, and I saved the email as proof when they send the cops after us. But so every year is a weird alchemy of finding the right shows, and of course there are other queer theaters out there, and sometimes they get the shows before we do, and sometimes we get them before they do. But it also works.
And how'd you get your act going? Do you have a lot of support from all kinds of sources, Bernie style, or you have a few big funders? Like what keeps the wind in your sails all this long?
I think our subscribers and our donors, and we have support. We have some governmental support, not as much as we used to. So we've really had to make a go of it the last 10 years on individuals and audiences. And used to be there was a lot of money for the arts in this country, and there's less and less. Yeah.
Unfortunately, at least at this juncture, that may change.
Well, we're truly a capitalist country.
Right, but it's not like art doesn't bring back money. If you look at the culture of this country is spread over the world, music, films, Hollywood. It's not like culture, that's not bringing any.
No, it's true. If you write a song about nothing or put on a movie with a lot of explosions, which I love movies with explosions, but there are a lot of them. And it's hard to do an explosion on stage.
Right.
So it's. Yes, American culture leads the world. I wish it was a little more diverse, and exciting, and intellectual. I often have to go to French movies to get some thinking in my. Well,
obviously
in my
the French have understood that culture sells, and that's why they have a flourishing movie culture as well. So it's just a matter of mindset. At the end of the day, if you just turn your attention towards what sells, it doesn't have to be guns and explosions.
Well, we're not there yet. I mean, I think in the 70s maybe we were drifting there. There was a lot of very interesting movies when I was young, and now less and less. So anyway. That's why I think theater remains important, because it doesn't have to reach as broad an audience. That's its virtue.
I certainly agree with you. If it weren't for culture and music and San Francisco legacy, I would never have bothered to come to this country. I can tell you that. Yeah. It's not bombs at my door that would have made me like San Francisco and the culture that we have. And I just want to remind people that they can go see Priscilla, Queen of the Desert by Stephan, Elliott, and Allan Scott up until June 30th, 2018. therhino.org for all information. And that was our show. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Benoit.
Break a leg.
Thank you.
See you soon.